Okay, we're back on another journey for building another yew longbow. This is another bow from my friend and customer in New York State, Mr. Lou Cervello. This is going to be a 72-inch, it'll be a little bit longer than that, traditional English longbow, and it'll even have, he wants this historically accurate, and we're even going to install, we'll work on these buffalo horns, so just to give you a view of the direction this thing's going to go. So at the moment, this stave is a big bulky stave. I would love to get two out of this one, but the proportions and locations of humps and bumps and stuff doesn't seem to allow that. So what I'm going to do is, without further ado here, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy in the vise and begin debarking this thing. It's been in the shop for probably, I don't know, 3-4 months at least. So it's acclimated to the area real well. So it's not a newbie to the location. And I wanted to get this back cleaned up the back of the bow cleaned up pretty good, so that I can get some wedges on the side there. I need to be able to do some marking on this thing to give it a better view on how I'm going to cut into it, because I'll probably have to use the bandsaw. I don't have to. I might use the bandsaw. We'll see how it goes. Okay, just some general debarking going on here. This is a really thick membrane, but the sap line isn't that bad. It's more of a medium, around 3/8 of an inch at most in most places. I've been dealing with a lot of bows here recently where the sap line is up to 5/8. That's a bad roll in it, but still make good bows out of them. It's just a little more challenging because you have to take the time out to remove growth rings off the back of the bow, so you bring the thickness down, and that in itself is a chore. But I'm going to debark this to a point where I can make readable lines on it. I'm not going to get carried away with it. Got every little bitty spot cleaned off. But this thing has lots of good character here. Like, got some cool bumps in it. Can make a limb kind of challenging for bending at times, but that's okay. That's what I like. I don't like a boring ride every time here. I'm not going to get too fanatical about all the bark being removed. I want it to where I can put lines on here and trim this thing down into its going to be into its general shape proportions in the bandsaw. But you can see this is a pretty good chunk of wood here. It's dried to about 10%. So it's got, you know, that's really what I like to have it down to, is a 10% dry, 8 to 10%, because I know that it's going to not twist or take a shape odd. So all goes back to what I was talking about. Every bow has its own journey. Every bow is different. There may be some similarities in technique on how you remove something, but truthfully the journey is entirely different. If you think about it, it's physically impossible for one bow to be the same as the other when it comes to this type of stuff. So you could virtually talk or tell a different story about each bow, about each stave. It may bore some people, but if you're really into the process of bow making or have an interest in what's happening, and this has happened all throughout history, is it may appear easy at one level, and sometimes it actually is. But it's like any path you walk, any place you go. Not every path you walk is going to be easy to climb. You're going to have uphills, downhills, some changes in direction and course, weather, you name it. So conditions vary. Every single bow stave here always vary. So that's why I can comfortably say everyone has its own journey. Every bow stave has its own journey. You could literally make a full-blown video out of every single bow stave, start to finish. Yeah, sometimes some of them might be close enough in their appearance or their general makeup, but to be truthful, every single bow like this bow stave is so entirely different from the last ones I worked on. I'll probably sand a lot of this out right here. Gently down to the surface, just where you see past the membrane. But as you can see, I've got it to where I'll probably scuff some of that down, make the lines where I can see things on there. Because I have an idea by looking at the belly. I was scoping out the material on this bow and the best usage of it, and getting to know where things work best as I've learned over the years with working with so many different types of wood. Okay, and you know, a lot of this will be used for the bow, so I'm not extremely worried about how much is removed over the back of this. Anyhow, I'm pop this thing out of here, give you a visual of something here. This bow stave is much longer. I think this thing is like 78 inches long, 77. It's got some defects at the end there, but I have some marks on here for a reason, and it would be very difficult because of the roll on here to put that in the bandsaw, and because I would like to do that. I want to take the bandsaw, and so I could knife this down, but it's not necessary if I have this tool here to take the time out just to blade that right down. But I'm going to take this line here. I have it marked its point of origins, and I'll just mark it here. I can lay it down, and you can see, if you've used a bandsaw, which you probably have, and are aware of what happened here, is this has been sliced here like this. I'll just follow that line all the way down, and I'm doing this all in association with the growth rings where this is happening. Every cut I'm making on this is creating the relationship for the back of the bow to how it's going to bend, so I can get away with this at this time. If I couldn't get away with it, I would obviously have to make some adjustments and knife it down, but in this case I can get away with it. I may even flatten here a little bit to create to offset that surface if it looks necessary, but it doesn't look like I'll have to. So, with that said, I'm going to put lines on here. Next video, you'll probably see me putting this in the bandsaw and slicing and dicing this thing. I want to get this down to a cube shape, where I have a reliable, somewhat straight, doesn't have to be perfect, a reasonable where I can find center, and begin putting this beauty together. Okay, we're back with Mr. Lou Cervello's bow, and This is the bow I debarked the last video, and I just snapped the lines that I had a relationship with them on the belly area, and that's not what I really need. I need to be able to see them on the back of the bow. I'm just going to knock off locations you see them marked, and we'll see how well the bandsaw deals with this situation here anyway. So let's begin. One of the actual issues with this stave is parts of it are really tall, so it makes the blade have to travel a lot further. So, for better or for worse, we've knocked down the condition or I mean the mass all the way down. It's actually a pretty straight stave. It actually looks pretty good. So if you can take a look at that, it's got great properties. That's what I was trying to get rid of, is so it can create a belly here that is workable. And in fact, what I can do from here now is there's a line on the inside I don't like right there. I'm going to knock it off right now. I'm going to shape this whole thing. I'll probably bring it down to about this thick, but I'll be marking that later in a few minutes here and determining some other factors with this stick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rasp some areas, kind of shape it a little better, so I can create the definition as far as the lines and finding center. I don't know how well you can see this stick. Can you see it pretty good there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's not bad. I mean, it regained some perspective there. You can tell how good this is. A 74-inch long. It was like 78, but I knocked about 4 inches of messy end off of it. So anyway, Lou, we're on the road here to your bow.